Well, the first Sunday of each month, we have a time that we call a moment for missions. And this morning, we have the honor, the privilege of having Hiedi Holm come and share with us. Hiedi has been involved with the Love Twin Cities evangelistic outreach the last several years. And Hiedi is the daughter of Chuck and Ricky Holm. So come up, Hiedi.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. I've had the honor and the privilege of coming and sharing with you for the last couple of years as I've been on a journey, just seeking the Lord in a deeper place of intimacy, living a lifestyle mission. And I'm sorry, that song was really good and it just got me into tears. I wanted to share kind of a little more of a personal story in a moment, and I'll kind of tie it back here in a minute. But you know how you get those times when you know it in your head and you just can't quite get it in your heart? And I woke up in the middle of the night last night, which seems to be happening a lot lately. And I have my place, and I have a tiny little efficiency apartment that I love. It has just been glorious with me and the Lord. But I have this place that I go to and I get on my knees and I say, okay, Lord, I need truth. Sometimes when you're hearing a lie from the devil in the middle of the night, it's really hard to fight. But that place has been so precious to me. And I had one of those moments last night again, which is fine. Like, I don't get upset about it. I just kind of know what to do. And I got on my face before the Lord and I just said, you got to tell me the truth. And the truth is that we're more than conquerors in Jesus Christ. We can see something and say, boy, that looks like a failure. Boy, I wish I'd done that differently. And yet the point is that we're hidden in him. Like, we're hidden in Jesus Christ, that as long as we walk looking to him, acknowledging him in everything that we do, he is our life and our length of days. And it is his joy to make everything good because he created us for a good purpose. So I've been meditating this last week on a verse, 2 Corinthians 4, 5, and 6. For what we proclaim is not ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, with ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who said, let light shine out of the darkness, has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. And this verse is set amidst talking about Moses and how Moses, when he came down from the mountain with the Ten Commandments, his light, he had a light shone from his face, and he had to veil his face because it was so bright. The Israelites kind of didn't know what to do with it, right? And what this verse is saying is we have that light, that we shine a portion of that, and how much greater is the light within us when the law could not accomplish everything that the Spirit through Jesus Christ can accomplish. And yet as we grow, day by day, growing in the knowledge of Jesus Christ, we're doing the same thing that Moses did when he sat up on that mountain. And when he came down, the way that his life shone, that when we sit in the presence of Jesus Christ and we just gaze upon who he is and what he did, that this light shows out of us, right? And it says it's the knowledge, for God who said, let light shine out of the darkness, has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ, that we grow and we know the glory of God, we know his goodness. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about, is that we have this light that shines out of us, but what do we do about it? How do we walk that out in day-to-day life? It can be a little overwhelming. So I want to just kind of share a quick story, and then I'll have a video to share too. So I did outreach called the Super Bowl Blitz, is what we called it. This is an organization called Firebase, and their vision is to have 24/7 prayer, worship, and intercession going on all the time. And as you're sitting in a place of intimacy with the Lord, worshiping with him, we get groups together that will go out and do evangelism for a couple hours on the streets. And so we did this over the Super Bowl time. There was a gentleman who I really appreciate. I've watched him as a leader for several years, who organized all the outreach leaders. And the outreach leaders just called people that they know who love to do street evangelism. And we organized groups to go out basically 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. or 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. Every day, Thursday through Sunday during the Super Bowl. So we had different groups going out. They would come in, get debriefed. They'd spend 2 hours in the prayer room just soaking in the Lord, seeking scriptures from him. And then they'd go out on the streets to a designated place that had already been prayed over and just said, Lord, we're here. Who do you want us to talk to? And once they found someone, Lord, what do you want us to say? And Lord, would you come and change their hearts? Would you do what only you can do? So that's kind of the vision of it. So I was on one of these outreaches Saturday evening, but just before the Super Bowl. And it was kind of a last minute thing, actually, because I'd been sitting in the prayer room and I'd had some good time with the Lord that day, but I actually took over leading, kind of organizing the outreach itself, because the gentleman who had been leading it had a family emergency and he had to step down. So all I did was basically pull people together and say, this is your time, this is your place, here's your list of people, make sure they all come back alive and safe, please. You know, like I was just kind of that administrative person. But I just had a free moment Saturday night that I could go out and outreach and just enjoy it. And I felt like the Lord gave me a heart for a gal that was going on outreach. And I saw her as she came into the prayer room, just timid, very, very, very soft-spoken. Like I just have never met someone so innocent, so soft, so beautiful. Maybe early 20s. Never been in outreach before, didn't know anybody else who was there. And she's going on the 9 p.m. outreach. So we start at 9 p.m., we come in at 3 a.m. So she's meeting the people at the bars. And I'm kind of thinking, how is this going to go? And so my heart kind of went out to her because she was the only girl on the team. And so I was just like, Lord, should I go? And I was like, I'm ready. Like, I want to go. I want to talk to people about Jesus, and I wanted to love on this girl. And so got to know her a little bit as we were out, and we're standing there at the bars, and this is a different kind of outreach, because a lot of times we reach out to people who are poor. It's really easy to talk to the homeless about Jesus. It's really easy to give them things. But when you're around the people who have gads of money, what do you do? Like, what do you say? You know, they're all like bouncing around and maybe on too much alcohol or something else, and what do you say, right? And you know what came to my mind was what I've been studying earlier that day. It's impossible. It is impossible for those who have kind of the money and the time, right? Just as much as like a camel cannot go through the eye of a needle, it's impossible for the rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I was just sitting there and I was like, Lord, I keep trying to talk to people and I just don't have the what to say or the courage, or I'm saying something and they're just kind of like, huh, And so I stood there for a minute, and all of a sudden she comes up to me, and she had been talking with some guy. She just said, oh, this is what he said, and he said this. And I said, wow, that's great. And I could just feed her faith. It's like just little things that you can do, right, when you're saying, Lord, I'm just here. And then a few minutes later, she and I were still talking, and a man kind of walked by, and I had just kind of made this determined, like, Lord, what do I do? And he said, just stand there. I will bring them to you. Really? You're going to bring somebody who's really rich up to talk to me about Jesus Christ? Sounds great. And so I did. I just stood there. And sure enough, lo and behold, some guy comes up fairly drunk, but enough to have a conversation. His speech was a little bit slurred, but it really wasn't too bad. And I can't remember how the conversation started, but I just said, what's your faith like with God? Do you walk with God? And he said, I just spent 4 months becoming Catholic. He said, I don't know what kind of faith you are. Just tell me you're not going to blow me up. No, I don't have any dynamite on me. I'm not going to tell you about Islam. No, that's not my heart. And he just says, okay. And so he starts to kind of tell me a little bit more. And he says, they're in this school, and I went with them, and they're doing, this march thing, and I'm looking at all these cemetery stones, and I'm sorry, that's just not okay. And I'm going, I'm sorry, I'm not following you. And he says, if you want my 12-year-old daughter to march and she doesn't know anything about rape, what are you doing? And I was like, what? And all of a sudden I went, the March for Life. Her school took them to march at March for Life, and he came as a chaperone. Okay, now I got you. And he's saying, my 12-year-old daughter does not understand rape. That's okay. She doesn't need to. And he said, well, I was going to tell her. And I kind of said, you know what? I appreciate your heart, that you're seeking God, and I appreciate that you love your daughter. What I know of the redemption of Jesus Christ is that he was beaten beyond recognition, bloody. I don't ever want her to have to go through that, but you know what? If she raises a baby through that, God knows that so many people are going to be saved through that testimony. And he stopped and he looked at me, he said, you're right. You are right. Of all the things that he was saying, there's so many things that I could have said to interrupt him. right? Like he was just kind of off base on some of his understanding about who God is. But the Lord in his mercy reached down to what he could receive as revelation and told him what he needed to know. And that's something that only the Holy Spirit can do. So she and I prayed for him, and I said, Lord, fill him with revelation from your Holy Spirit. Fill him with your Holy Spirit, Lord. And all of a sudden, he steps away, and he goes, wow, you guys are amazing. Hey, everybody, these girls are awesome. I love these girls. Blown away. He couldn't stop. And as he walked away, he said, I was going out to get a cigarette, but I don't even want a cigarette. You girls are awesome. He's just ecstatic. How does that happen? How does that happen? The impossible. And he looked at me in the midst of that conversation. He said, you got to understand, I got money. Nothing is impossible with God. Nothing is impossible with God when you offer yourself to him. Do you want to pull up that video?
Mark 16:15. Is everybody there? This is what Jesus said. Go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. Has anybody got any questions about that? This is what Jesus said. Go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. Preach the good news to everyone. These are our orders from our commander. Our orders are, now that you know that I'm going to paraphrase this. Now that you know that I'm real, start telling people! God has got people out there for every single one of us. Every single one of us has been strategically placed. You are not an accident. You have been placed in your family, in your neighborhood, in your workplace intentionally. That once God revealed himself to you, you are a messenger of the gospel.
So I joined this messenger boot camp in spring of 2015, and that's kind of what got me started on where I am today. I think it's overwhelming. I don't really consider myself an evangelist, and yet somehow there's moments when it comes out. And that's by the grace of Jesus Christ. But this was what taught me how to do that, how to just let the Lord come through me. It starts with 4 weeks about intimacy, how to grow in intimacy with God. We all go through seasons in life that are hard or difficult. It takes you through a season of cleansing. And then the last 4 weeks are very practical, how to share the gospel, how to talk about Jesus and how to give your testimony in 1 minute, how to give it in 3 minutes, in different situations. So if you'd like to know more about that, I'd love to share it. It starts March 24th down at Bethel University. I have little cards that can tell you a little bit more about it. But thank you for just the opportunity. The Super Bowl outreach was just an amazing, amazing opportunity for many people. I think the estimate is somewhere around 10,000 people engaged one way or another by the 182 messengers that engaged in our outreach. So thanks so much for your time.